Hey guys, Tom here with today's Drive and Talk. We are Saturday before Christmas. It's I think the 20th. Wanted to talk real quick about whether or not you need a 4-year degree to be successful in this world. And I would argue that you don't. And it was from this standpoint, short story long here. So when I was coming out of high school, 18 years old, a lot of my friends were headed for college. And I have to say, I was never sold on the idea that you had to be successful only by having a 4-year degree. That was the only way you're going to be successful. I figured you could be successful in many ways, and I saw the occupations that I was interested in at the time, and the money they paid, and you go to the occupational handbook there in the library and see what the future was for hiring and what they're currently paying, which I never found to be accurate. And so when I came out, a lot of my friends were going to college, and I had entertained the idea, but I had seen relatives that were trudging their way through 4 years of school, and they were working, and they always looked miserable. And while I was always interested in something that I was interested in, I like, certain things, I could do well at them. But take me back to my, sophomore year of high school, where you had to learn to write out a linear equation, or you had to learn to graph something on the X and Y axes in math. And I couldn't get past the roadblock in my head of, I will never use this stuff in life. And I was right. I'm old now, and I've never used that. I've never had to graph anything on the X and Y axes. So I wasn't all about going to a 4-year school and getting a degree. And back then, that was the only way to do it. They thought that's the only way to be successful, is to get your 4-year degree. You have to go to college, you have to go to school, and be an engineer, or 900 million other occupations. Now, I would say this: I knew that if you say you wanted to go into the military and fly jets, fly helicopters, they required a 4-year degree, so you would need college. If you wanted to, be a doctor, you have to have certain degrees to qualify to do that. I get it. Like I said, if you wanted to be a mechanical engineer, you had to have an ME degree and pass all the courses and all the math. And so I understood that, but those weren't things that I was interested in. When I came out of high school, I always liked airplanes, and I just always have. And I wanted to be an air traffic controller. And so it was a fall after I had graduated, I think. And so I went down to the Air Force and talked to them and said I wanted to be an air traffic controller. And the recruiter kind of laughed at me, and he says, "Yeah, I want to be one too. Everybody wants that." He says, "We're not offering it anymore as an initial entry option. It's saved for people who want to re-enlist that are already in the Air Force." And so I was kind of disgruntled. The Marine Corps was next door. I happened to run into a Marine recruiter. He asked me, "Well, so you're talking to the Air Force, what are you looking at?" And I said, "Well, I wanted to be an air traffic controller, but they're not offering it. They have no positions." And so the Marine recruiter says to me, "We have air traffic controllers." And I said, "Really?" He goes, Yeah, and we were going to give you the job because we can't afford to not have you in it. We're real small service." I said, "Okay." So I signed up, going in, thinking I was going to be an air traffic controller, and you get to boot camp, and I got something close to it, but I didn't become an air traffic controller. That was something I knew that had I become one, though, even back in the 80s, you could get that certification out of the military, come out on a Friday. On Monday, you could go right over to the FAA at some tower and start qualifying to be an air traffic controller there. And I think back then, in the mid-late 80s, I think air traffic controllers were making $80,000 a year then. So what's that in today's dollars? $200,000 a year. So I didn't get to do that. I came out, after 4 years in the military, and I became a firefighter shortly thereafter. And I realized, and I didn't have a 4-year degree yet, but I was fortunate enough to get hired. I interviewed well. And I realized something after a number of years that in our profession, we got paid very well over here on the West Coast, and I was always thankful for that. And when I started comparing that to some of the different occupations I just named where you needed a 4-year degree, me and several of my buddies, we were making better money than they were. Of all the guys on my job, and of all the people I know, I probably know 25 that are all millionaires, like $1 million or more, and net. And I think of those 25, 4 of them might have a 4-year degree. A lot of them have some school, a 2-year degree, maybe a 2-year certificate, or just a lot of college that never amounted to 2 years of school because they had different classes. But there are so many occupations out there, and I still today, like when I was 18 years old, I still believe you do not need a 4-year degree to be successful and to make good money. And to this day, and now you're seeing there's less people going to school. The ones that have a 4-year degree, the ones that graduated last May, by about August, 60% of them, and I heard this as a report on the radio, had already been fired from whatever Fortune 500 company that they worked for. And the reason is they couldn't be professional. They couldn't write a paper. They couldn't conduct themselves properly in the office. They had problems with attendance. So just because you have a 4-year degree doesn't mean that you're going to interview well and get the job. It doesn't mean that once you are hired, if you are hired, that you're going to succeed at that. Now we start looking at all of the trades out there in recent years. You look at electricians and plumbers and construction and HVAC. I could go down the line. They're screaming for people right now because the trades years ago, those weren't looked upon very well. Going to the trades, oh God, you're going to make $40,000 a year. No, they're making 6 figures now. And you can walk in and start an apprenticeship just about the same day with a lot of these places, other than filling out some paperwork, because they need people, but they don't have people going into it, or this young generation, some of them that go into it, they quit, or they have attendance problems, or it's no call, no show, or they can't take direction, they can't interact properly because they're always in their phone. I don't believe that you need a 4-year degree to be successful. It helps. It can open some doors for you for certain things, but I don't believe that you need that at all. I thought that when I was 18, and I am really old now, in my late 50s, and I think that now. And I've seen too many people that have done well that don't have 4-year degrees to believe otherwise. It just confirms what I was thinking back then. Because at the end of the day, you get training to make a specific amount of money. Well, there's a lot of jobs out there that could pay you well over $100,000 a year, and your training is a lot shorter. Look at linemen. What a great job that is. They'll have like a 15-week school, and then they can start an apprenticeship at an electrical company, and then start working, and eventually become a journeyman lineman. And I know a guy who was a supervisor, or is, and I think I don't know, he's at like, his base salary is like $60 an hour. He didn't have a 4-year degree or even 2 years. And then when he gets called out on overtime, which is oftentimes, it's double time. So he's making $120 an hour, and they need linemen. This is a great job. I used to see these guys at fire scenes when they were restoring power, getting power back up to the neighborhood because some detached garage burned the power line down, and talk with those guys. Those guys are great guys. That's a great job. I would recommend that highly. But there's lots of stuff out there. I knew a guy who started, he didn't have any school. He barely got out of high school. He bought a dump truck later on after he had worked. It was a used old dump truck. And then he got a trailer with a Bobcat on it, and he started doing jobs and tearing out driveways, and whatever he could do, he would do anything with it. Bringing in dirt for landscaping and hauling away whatever. And he did well enough that he bought a second dump truck. And then he had, I think, his brother, because he had his brother and his neighbor both working for him. Anyway, the guy has a fleet of 5 dump trucks now, and they're working almost year-round. And what's a dump truck per hour now? God, I don't know, 150 an hour? You can get by a little less when you're your own business because you don't have quite the overhead. But again, he didn't need a 4-year degree. He's making, when it's all said and done, well over $200,000 a year. If you get into the trades, like I was saying earlier, you start as an apprentice and then you work your way up. You're also getting into the 401k plans that they offer and the 457 plans, the deferred comp plans, all of this. And I think most employers offer that now. And what do? Well, I think a lot of those plans follow the S&P because it outperforms the other markets and has, I guess, since forever. At least that's what a finance guy told me. And so they're watching their money snowball and grow, and they're becoming millionaires as well. So being a millionaire, does it have the ring to it nowadays that it did 30 years ago? No, because people are there's more and more people becoming millionaires. You'll see articles on that. But I'm not going to knock college, a 4-year degree at all, but I don't believe that that's a requirement and that you need that. I think there's too many avenues out there. You can either work or have your own business. There's a lot of blue-collar trades. There's a lot of things you can do that you wouldn't need a 4-year degree to make the money that people with a 4-year degree are making. You can make that amount of money and even more with the proper training, the proper skill set, getting into the right occupation, sizing it all up, seeing what they pay, see what the work opportunities are, work-life balance. Are you out of town a lot? Do you want to do that a lot for the money? Maybe you don't. I knew a guy who was started in construction and framing, and he did that for a while, and he learned all about building houses. And I don't think they built high-end houses, but he understood, every aspect of it, the foundation and framing and all the siding and interior work and roofing and how to windows, how to order those properly, and then he branched out, started his own company, and he's doing very well. He's doing very well. He's working all the time. He's got some guys working for him now, and he does very well. So if you're a person, you're not sure you want to go to college, and again, you'll always benefit from college. It's always good for you, but I don't believe at all that you need to have a 4-year degree to succeed. I just don't. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, that was today's Drive and Talk. We're a few days out from Christmas, so I hope you all have a great Christmas. Hope you get to spend time with family and eat and drink and relax and have a good time. I plan on spending lots of time with family and having a blast, so that's my plan. Anyway, that's my Drive and Talk for today. Thanks for watching. We'll get another one out to you here real quick. Take care.